algebra class. These are your notes for Tuesday, January 19th on multiplying polynomials. This is Chapter 5, Section 3 in our math book, and if you want to see more examples that are worked out for you, you can refer to your math book on page 323 to 326. Okay, so we're going to be multiplying polynomials. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start with multiplying a polynomial times a monomial, such as this problem that I have written down. We have negative 4x times the quantity 2x squared minus 3x plus 6. So we have a monomial, one term, times a trinomial. Now, you should think that this looks like the distributive property because it is, but we also have to use our multiplying monomial rules as we are doing this. I'll show you what I'm talking about as we go. So we are going to do the distributive property. So when I take negative 4 times 2x squared, you multiply the coefficients. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Now, when you take x times x squared, we learned that when you multiply monomials, you actually add the exponents. So x to the first times x to the second is x to the third, because 1 plus 2 is 3. Alright, now we got to take negative 4x times negative 3x. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. And x times x is x squared, because 1 plus 1 is 2. And then you have negative 4x times 6, and you multiply the coefficients. Negative 4 times 6 is negative 24, and then you just have x. So your answer to this problem is negative 8x cubed plus 12x squared minus 24x. And there's nothing we can combine. If there was something that was alike, we would actually combine our terms. Problem number 2. Negative 2x squared times 3x cubed plus 7x minus 9. Pause the video and try it by yourself first, and then we will go over it together. Alright, so here's what you should have done. When you do the distributive property, when you take negative 2x squared times 3x cubed, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. X squared times x cubed, you add the exponents, that's x to the 5th. When you take negative 2x squared times 7x, negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. X squared times x, remember there's an imaginary 1 here, that's going to give you x to the third when you add your exponent. Negative 2x squared times negative 9 is going to give you positive 18x squared. And I have no like terms, so there's nothing I can combine. That's my final answer. Alright, now we're ready to move on to a binomial times a binomial. So when you're multiplying a binomial times a binomial, the key is you have to take everything in this first parentheses times everything in the second parentheses, and then we have to look and see if there's anything that we can combine. Now, there's a real organized way to do this, and we're going to do this by doing something called Foyle. So Foyle is a mnemonic, and here's what it stands for. F stands for first terms. So when I say first terms, I'm going to multiply the first term in each parentheses times each other. So when I take x times x, that is x squared, because you add the exponents, x to the first times x to the first, 1 plus 1 is 2. Now the O stands for the outer terms. So what I'm going to do is my outer terms of my parentheses are my x and my 3. So I'm going to multiply 3 times x, which is just 3x, and it's positive, so I'm going to put down plus 3x. The I in Foyle stands for inner terms. So when we talk inner terms, we're talking about the innermost terms. So we're talking about these two. So if I take 2 times x, that's positive 2x. And then we have one more term, and that's the L and L stands for last. So when we do the last, we're talking about the 2 times the 3. So 2 times 3 is 6, and it's positive. So this is what I have. What I've done is I've multiplied everything in the first term times everything in the last binomial, and I have x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 6. Now, if you do FOIL correctly, most of the time, your middle two terms are going to actually be able to be combined. 3x and 2x are alike, so this gives me x squared plus 5x plus 6. And that's my final answer. Okay? Number 2. So how about if I have x plus 3 times x minus 4? Alright, again, we're going to FOIL. So the F stands for first terms. So when I take x times x, that is x squared. Then it says O for outer terms. So here's my O. Now notice that's an x and not a 4. That's a negative 4. So negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And now we're going to do the I, which is inner terms. So that is a positive 3 times an x, which is positive 3x. And then the last term that we're going to do is L for last. So that's the last term in each binomial. That's a positive 3 times a negative 4. That's negative 12. So notice how we did the first, outer, inner, last. And then again, if you follow FOIL correctly, the middle two terms will always be alike and you can combine them. So my final answer is x squared. Negative 4x plus 3x is negative 1x, or just negative x, and then minus 12. Now, I'm going to show you something that some of your guys are going to like, and some of you guys are going to think is kind of goofy. But my algebra teacher didn't teach us FOIL. He actually taught us something else. He taught us something called Binomial George. Alright, I'm going to show you what this means. Some of you will like this. I wish I was there today to see your reaction. Okay, so I'm going to write another binomial. Let's do x plus 3 times x minus 6. Alright, so here's what my algebra teacher taught me. He said, okay, you're going to first of all take your x times your x. There's your first. X times x is x squared. And then he said we're going to do our outer terms, which is O for in FOIL. So negative 6 times x is negative 6x. And then he said that we were going to do our inner terms, just like the I in FOIL. So 3 times x is plus 3x. And then my last terms, L, positive 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Now, what am I talking about when I say Binomial George? Well, he told us if you do FOIL correctly, now you have to be creative here, but there's actually, it makes a smiley face. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I'll use a different color. Okay, here's the Binomial George's forehead. Here's his chin. Here's his smile. Here's his eyes. And here's his ears. So my algebra teacher called him Binomial George. I don't know why, that's just what he called him. So if you do FOIL correctly, it should make a smiley face. Now, when you combine your two middle terms, you get x squared minus 3x minus 18. And that's your final answer. Alright, let's go on. Alright, let's try x minus 9 times x minus 4. Why don't you pause the video and try it by yourself? Alright, so here's what you should have gotten. When you do your first terms, x times x is x squared. When you did your outer terms, x times negative 4 is negative 4x. When you do your inner terms, negative 9 times x is negative 9x. And when you do your last terms, negative 9 times negative 4 is plus 36. And notice, here's my smiley face, so I know I did it right. And if I take negative 4x minus 9x, that gives me negative 13x. So my final answer is x squared minus 13x plus, whoops, I wrote the wrong thing, sorry. It should be plus 36. Hopefully that's what you got. Okay, let's try another one. All right, how about x minus 7 times x plus 11? All right, again, pause the video, try it, come back and see if we get the same answer together. All right, so what you should have had was x times x is x squared. Outer terms, 11 times x is plus 11x. Inner terms, negative 7 times x is negative 7x. And my last terms, negative 7 times positive 11 is negative 77. Okay, again, my middle two terms should line up and they should be alike. 11x minus 7x is 4x. So we have x squared plus 4x minus 77. All right, so far we've done a monomial times a polynomial. We've done a binomial times a binomial. Now we're ready to do a binomial times a trinomial. So if I have x plus 2 times 2x squared plus 3x minus 6. Okay, there's no fun mnemonic or anything like this on this one. You just have to make sure you take everything in the first parentheses times everything in the last parentheses. Now, I'll show you, I like to do this vertically so that my terms line up, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a minute. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take x times everything in the second parentheses. So if I take x times 2x squared, that is 2x cubed. If I take x times 3x, x times 3x is positive 3x squared. If I take x times negative 6, that's negative 6x. All right, so I've taken the x times everything in the the second parentheses. Now I'm ready to make sure I take the 2 times everything. So I have to take 2 times 2x, that's 4x squared. Now watch what I do. I actually put it underneath the other x squared term because eventually I'm going to combine those. Now I'm going to take 2 times 3x. 2 times 3x is 6x. So I'm going to put it underneath my other term that has an x on it. And then I take my 2 times negative 6, which is negative 12. Because I have no constant yet, I'm going to put it in back at the end. Now I have to remember I have to combine all of these together, which is why I lined all this up. So I'm going to add 2x plus the 2x cubed plus nothing is 2x cubed. 3x squared plus 4x squared is positive 7x squared. Negative 6x plus 6x, those just happen to cancel out, so I have no x term. And then I have a negative 12. So my final answer is 2x cubed plus 7x squared minus 12. All right, try one by yourself. I know this is a little weird, but go ahead and try it. X minus 3 times the quantity. Negative 5x squared minus 6x plus 9. All right, go ahead and try it by yourself and then come back and see if we agree. All right, so the first thing you had to do was you to take your x in the first parentheses times everything in the second. So when I take x times negative 5x squared, you should have gotten negative 5x cubed. If I take x times negative 6x, that's negative 6x squared. And if I take x times 9, you should have positive 9x. All right, now I have to do the negative 3 times everything. Negative 3 times negative 5x, that's positive 15x squared. So I'm going to make sure I put that underneath my other x squared term. Negative 3 times negative 6x, positive 18x. I'm going to put that underneath my other x term. Negative 3 times positive 9, that gives me negative 27, and I don't have another constant, so I'm going to put that out to the right. Okay, I'm ready to total these up. Negative 5x cubed plus nothing is going to give me negative 5x cubed. Negative 6x squared plus 15x squared gives me a positive 9x squared. 9x plus 18x gives me 27x. And then I bring down my negative 27. And there's my final answer. Okay, last kind of problem is a trinomial times a trinomial. And we'll never have to do very many of these because it's way too many terms. We'll only do maybe one of these occasionally. So what if we had x squared plus 2x minus 3 times 2x squared minus x plus 9. Alright, the biggest thing here is you just got to remember that you multiply everything times everything. So everything in the first parentheses times everything in the second parentheses. You just have to be really organized about this. So if I take x squared times 2x squared, that's 2x to the fourth. If I take x squared times negative x, that gives me negative x cubed. If I take x squared times 9, that gives me 9x squared. Okay, that first one's done. Okay, now we're ready for 2x times 2x squared. That gives me 4x cubed. And I'm going to put it right here underneath the other x cubed term. Alright, 2x times negative x gives me negative 2x squared. So I'm going to put that underneath this x squared term. 2x times 9 gives me 18x. I don't have an x term yet, so I'm just going to plug that right here. Alright, and then I have the last one. I need to take x squared times 2x squared. That gives me 2x to the fourth. Nope, sorry guys, I didn't mean to do that. I apologize. I just got caught up in what was going on at my house. Try that again. Sorry about that. We got to do the negative 3. Negative 3 times 2x squared is negative 6x squared. So that's going to go here. Negative 3 times negative x gives me positive 3x. Put that underneath the other x term. And negative 3 times positive 9, negative 27. Like I said, you just have to be very organized and make sure you don't forget anything. Alright, so now I'm ready to combine everything. 2x to the fourth has nothing to go with it, so that's 2x to the fourth. Negative x cubed and 4x cubed. Remember, this is a positive 4x cubed. That's going to give you plus 3x cubed. 9x squared minus 2x squared minus 6x squared gives me just x squared, so I'm going to put plus x squared. Make sure you always have add or subtract between each term. 18x and 3x gives me 21x, and then minus 27. So on these, you just have to be very organized and make sure that you don't forget anything. And notice, the more terms in your polynomials, the more terms in your answers. Now, the last couple of things that we're going to talk about is you're going to end up with some things that look a little different, such as, what if I gave you this binomial times binomial? If I had said, what's x minus 3, the quantity squared? Okay, first of all, you have to understand what this actually means. This is not x squared plus 9. It's not x squared minus 9. You have to remember that this actually means that we're taking x minus 3 times x minus 3. So we have to do Foyle method on this, or Binomial George, whichever one you like. If you take x times x, that's x squared. There's your first terms. Outer terms, negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Inner terms, negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And then your last terms, negative 3 times negative 3 is plus 9. So negative 3x, combine them, we get x squared minus 6x plus 9. So if you see any of these on your homework tonight, you need to remember that you have to write them out as two binomials. So if I gave you this problem, 2x plus 4, quantity squared. Go ahead and try that problem, pause the video, and then come back and let's make sure we get the same answer. Okay, again, you have to remember this is really 2x plus 4 times 2x plus 4. So when you FOILed it, this is what you should have gotten. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. Outer terms, 2x times 4 is plus 8x. Inner terms, 4 times 2x is plus 8x. And last terms, 4 times 4 is plus 16. Combine your middle terms, and you have 4x squared plus 16x plus 16. Okay, the last type of problem that you will see tonight on your homework and in this section is something like this. If I gave you x minus 4, the quantity cubed, not squared. So the first thing that you have to think about is this actually means x minus 4 times x minus 4 times x minus 4. Okay, so we can only do we only can do one binomial times a binomial first, and then we have to multiply that answer times the third one. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take x minus 4 times x minus 4. So we're going to FOIL that. X times x is x squared. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Inner terms, negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And the last terms, negative 4 times negative 4 is plus 16. So right now we have x squared minus 8x plus 16. But we still have to multiply that times this third binomial, x minus 4. Well, we've already done a polynomial times a binomial, so it's the same thing. You just have to make sure you take everything in the first parentheses times everything in the second parentheses. The key is being very organized. You can't do this stuff in your head. So x squared times x cubed. X squared times negative 4, negative 4x squared. Okay? Now we got to do the negative 8x. Negative 8x times x is negative 8x squared. I'm going to line that up with the other x squared. And negative 8x times negative 4, positive 32x. I don't have an x term, so I'm just going to write that down. Now the blue term, the 16. So 16 times x, that's 16x. I'm going to put that underneath 32x. And then I have 16 times negative 4, that's negative 64. Now you got to remember, you got to combine all of these together to get your final answer. So, when I do that, x cubed has nothing with it, so I have x cubed. I'm having to write on the side here because I ran out of room. So x cubed, negative 4x squared, and negative 12x squared. They're all negative, or negative 8x squared. That gives me negative 12x squared. Sorry about that. 32x and 16x, that gives me plus 48x. And, of course, I still have that negative 64. So my final answer is x cubed minus 12x squared plus 48x minus 64. Okay, so that was a lot of information for today. So what you're going to try tonight for homework, in your book, you're going to do on page 327 and 328, you're going to do 16 to 34 evens, 38, 40, and 44. And then tomorrow we'll begin class with seeing how you did on this assignment. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.